Sahana vavatu, Sahano bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Bhavani Shankaro Vande Shraddha Vishvasarupino Yabhyam Vinana Pashyanti Siddha Swantasthamiswaram Vande Bodhamayam Nityam Gurum Shankararupinam Yamashrito hi vakropi Chandra sarvatra vandyate. Om samasta jana kalyane Niratam karunamayam Namami chinmayam devam Satgurum brahma vidvaram. Parvatiji's question was, is Rama, the prince of Ayodhya, different from the supreme reality? And Bhagwan Shiva doesn't like this question because he feels, how can you doubt that they are different from one another? And he goes on to describe who will ask such a question. In other words, who will be the kind of person that will think differently than the scriptures? And one of the most important things that was pointed out yesterday, this one line that was said, Mukura malina arunayana bihina Rama Rupa dekhahi kimi dina. Those who are with a mind that is sullied and who are without eyes, in other words, without the proper means to understand, they will not know who Bhagavan is. So when we talk about purity of mind, essentially what we mean is a mind that is free from likes and dislikes, a mind that has dispassion. Because in everybody's life, generally what is the problem? Our problem is not other people. Our problem is not the situations that we face. Our problem, or the thing that causes us sorrow in life, is our likes and dislikes that give rise to so many other things. So if that mind has not been freed from these likes and dislikes, then it will not be able to understand the truth. And if that person is not using the right means to inquire into the truth, then again, that person will not understand. And here when we say the right means, essentially what it indicates is that we should be looking to the scriptures, to the Vedas, and to whatever is echoing that Vedic teaching. And this is also important in that when we look at things like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, their teaching is valid, their teaching about the self, about the truth, as long as it is in line with the Vedas. When it starts to deviate, then it is talking about something else. Why this point is important? In life, in the world, nobody says if they want to study, for example, somebody wants to study medicine, okay? Nobody says, I'm going to study medicine by examining people's bodies. By myself, I'm going to gather some research participants. I'm going to subject them to some trials, or I will collect some no longer useful bodies and I will do my own experiment, and by that I will learn medicine. No, everybody acknowledges that you need to go to university, you will need to use some textbooks, you will need to learn from somebody who has already gained that knowledge. And it's the same in any field. Yes, there is room for experimentation, and there is room for research, and there is room for development. But to gain knowledge, we never deny that you need to go to a particular source to gain that knowledge. Whether it's literature, whether it's economics, whether it's medicine, whether it's business. So, why is it that when we come to religion or spirituality, we feel that I don't need any books? I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I will just do this inquiry by myself. I don't need scripture. I don't, especially Vedas, Sanskrit and all, who needs to learn? I will sit by myself quietly. I will find everything that I need to know. What is this clear contradiction? So the Shastras, it's not just there to entertain people who don't have time to do anything else in life. Sometimes people see people like us and they think, probably her life didn't work out, you know. Probably she couldn't get married. So it's good, at least she's busy. Doing something. So this is not just for time pass. If we want to do a genuine inquiry, then this is where we need to come. There is no here and there about it. There is no room for debate. Once that knowledge is gained, then you have freedom in your thinking to do whatever kind of experiments you want to do. But this foundation should be firm. And that foundation comes from the Vedas. So he says people who have a lot of likes and dislikes in their mind, even if they get this Vedic teaching, it will be difficult for them to understand. And we know how this works. We come to satsang, and by God's grace, that day our mind is able to settle down in that satsang. So we listen and we understand. And then we walk out, and the next day we think, what did I hear yesterday? I think they told me that I'm consciousness, but really doesn't feel like it. I think they told me that I don't have sorrow in this world, but I don't know, were they talking about me or they're talking about someone else? What is that? That is this mind that has this layer, like the mirror has a layer of dirt. Mind has this layer of impressions of likes and dislikes. So as soon as we get distracted, that knowledge becomes unavailable to us. And there are lots of different ways of dealing with this impure mind. But the most effective way that is pointed out is through developing a relationship with God. If we as seekers are able to develop a personal relationship, a loving relationship with God, and at the same time our understanding of God is very clear, that is the best remedy, that is the best antidote to the sorrows that we face in the world that are caused by our own likes and dislikes. The reason that these likes and dislikes they have a foundation, they have something to stand on, is because our vision of the world is that we are separate from it. Do you feel that you are at one with the world? Sometimes. Most of the time not. And within that world, so many different people are there. So many different objects, so many different situations. And I don't see that oneness with all those people and objects and situations. So I feel there is manyness, there is a lot of variety, and some things are good and some things are bad. And so I start to look for the good things, and I start to run away from that which I feel is bad. And then what happens is, whatever is good, unfortunately, cannot stay with us forever. So as soon as it gets taken away from us, that sorrow that is experienced is unbearable. Objects is one thing, but people, to deal with being separated from people, it's not easy. When it's not in your hands, when you can't do anything about it, and forcefully that person is taken away. And when you have to see people that you love suffering, very difficult. So because we have this sense of separation from this world, and therefore there is the possibility of getting what we don't like and being separated from what we like, therefore we have all of these experiences. But if I'm able to understand that this entire universe is nothing but the body of God, God is not somewhere sitting very happily in some world. Either you say in heaven, or you say in Vaikuntha, or you say in Kailash, or you say in Saket Dham. He's not somewhere. Our whole idea is to understand that this entire universe is appearing in God. And therefore, wherever I am, whenever I am never away from that God. And if I have love for God, and if I know that God loves me, essentially what it means is I don't have anything to complain about anymore. I don't have anything to feel sad about, because I have understood that everything is coming to me from God. And if I love him or her, however I understand that God, then even if the experience is a painful one, even if there is some sorrow, then I will be able to deal with that properly. And even if it's a difficult situation and I get angry at God, because this is what is said, if you have difficult emotions, then we direct them towards the Lord. Basically, everything becomes centered on God. If you get angry at a person, what happens? Say you fight with someone at night, okay? Unfortunately, you're not able to resolve before you sleep. For some people, they'll even dream about fighting with that person again. So they haven't fought once, they fought in their dream also. Then they wake up. And whole of the next day, who will you be thinking about? You'll be thinking about that person whom you're angry at. Now, in bhakti, what is said is direct all your emotions towards God. So say you get angry, but you know that whatever experience is happening because it's coming from Bhagavan. So you direct your anger towards God. Now, who are you thinking about? What has happened to that anger? It's there for a little while. It will be there. Because we are not able to let go so easily. But now you're not thinking about some person, something. You're thinking of Bhagavan. So, and Bhagavan is not going to come and fight back with you. Fortunately. So the strength and the fearlessness and the comfort that developing a relationship with God can give us, we will understand when we develop that relationship. And we will understand when we see people who are living with that relationship. And when we see them, we will understand why it is worth doing. Because you see how happily those people live. And so many examples are in olden times, but in present time also. Somebody like Mirabai, who was sent poison to drink. And happily she took it, because it has come from Bhagwan. And for such a person, Bhagwan says, I have to now take care of this person, because they have given everything to me. Then there is really nothing to worry about. So why this idea of Saguna Brahma is important? Saguna means with qualities. Ishvara, who we understand in a particular form as all-loving, all-knowing, all-compassionate. Because just this devotion by itself, if we can develop, our lives will be so much improved. Okay. Now, this question that Parvati ji asked was, are they different? Now Lord Shiva is explaining how it should be understood. So this is after 115. He says, next one, yeah. Yeah, that one. After 115. Okay. He says, Sagunahi agunahi nahi kachu bheda. There is no difference between, no, previous one. Yeah. There is no difference between that which is saguna and that which is aguna. Aguna means free of gunas, nirguna. In other words, we only talk about guna, we only talk about nirguna or saguna with reference to the gunas. The truth by itself has they don't have any relevance. In other words, you will only say something is attributeless with reference to some attributes. Okay, it's like if you say, how big is this space? So you say some, I don't know, however 10 meters by however much this is. That much space is there, plus the height. Relative, it's not small, it's not so big, medium space. Then you go into the opposite bookshop. You say in the bookshop, how much space is there? So many bookshelves are there, so many books are there. So you say, space is there, but not so much space, less space, because you can't move around so much. You say go into the attic. How much space is there? I don't know, I've never been in the attic. Probably less space. So what are we saying? Space is big, more, less, small, big or small, less or more. Space by itself is not big or small. We are measuring with reference to the boundaries that we have put, right? So, space is just space. There is no less space, more space, my space, your space. If you go on the tube, people get very sensitive. This is my space. Okay? Don't come into my personal space. Especially nowadays, everybody's scared of getting sick, so don't come too close. But space doesn't have, there is no such division in space. So we can't say, and yet we do. We say, this is mine, this is yours, this is big, this is small. In the same way, that space is space, whether it's big, small, up, down, whatever it is. So the truth is the truth, whether you call it with qualities, without qualities, whether you say it has attributes, doesn't have attributes, that truth is the same. There is no difference. So that which is nirguna, which is without attributes, which is without form, which is unborn, that is the same truth which takes a form. So why does it take a form? So beautifully Shivji says, Bhagata Prema Basa. Because of the love of devotees, that Ishvara takes form. So a lot of the time, we ask that, when will Bhagavan come? We're waiting. We need him. He says, Basa means he is held by the devotion of those devotees. He is in their grip. And so he takes form. In other words, if you want to see Bhagavan, just love him. And he will appear before you. If you remember, in Swami Swarupanandaji's chapter 4 talks, when he was explaining last year that how Bhagavan takes form, he said the same thing. He said that Maya Shabda can also mean love. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. So I take form because of the love of devotees. So this is what is said. And if somebody says how, okay, impossible. For something that has no form, that has no shape, that has no qualities, how is it possible for that to appear as something with qualities? How is it possible for that to appear as one particular form? So he says, just as water becomes ice, in the same way, that formless takes a form. Water by itself doesn't have any form, right? It flows freely. And yet, under certain conditions, it will take some form. It can become ice, it can become steam, it can become so many different things. When something happens, then it can take that form. So he says, Jo guna rahita saguna soi kaise jalu hima upala bilaga nahi jaise. Just as water and ice are not different from one another, that saguna and nirguna are not different. And you said that Rama is the one who he looked as though he was ignorant. He was wandering around, crying, suffering. He says, Jasu nama brahma timira patanga, one whose name is by itself the light to dispel the darkness of ignorance. Tehi kimi kahiya bimoha prasanga. How will that Rama, how will he get deluded? If somebody's name alone has the ability to dispel darkness, then what kind of person will that be? That person won't be ignorant himself. Otherwise, by taking his name, you'll become more ignorant. That is the effect that you will have. In other words, don't delude yourself that God is ignorant, that Rama is ignorant. And this is very unique to this Tulsi Ramayana, to Ramacharitmanas, because in Valmiki Ramayana, which is the original Ramayana, there Lord Rama is very much a man, he's a human being. He is not Bhagwan, and nobody knows he's Bhagwan also. He never reveals himself as that. He goes about like an ordinary person. Because there the purpose was to show what is dharma. And dharma for human beings. Therefore he took that particular form so that we can relate and say that yes, this is an example that I can follow. In Tulsi Ramayana, in here, Tulsidas Ji his purpose is to instill devotion. This is what is predominant here. And so, even if people around don't recognize, he will keep reminding the reader that you don't forget who this is. This is Rama who is Brahma. This is Rama who is not a person, is not a prince. He is that Ishvara who has taken form in this way. So, here, you see the next line. Rama Satchidananda Dinesa. Very clearly he says. Rama is Satchit Ananda. He is that supreme truth. And nahi taha mohanisa lavalesa. There is not even the slightest bit of delusion for him. He is not deluded. Sahaja prakasa rupa bhagavana. He is of the nature of illumination, so how will he have ignorance or knowledge? Nothing will happen. This is the nature of the Lord. Now, what is the nature of the Jiva? Jiva is the one who has 5 things. Harasha means joy. Vishada, sorrow. Jnana, knowledge. Ajnana, ignorance. And ahamiti abhimana, one who has this abhiman, this identification of aham, I. So we all experience this day to day, moment to moment. What day to day? One moment happy, next moment sad. One moment knowledge, next moment ignorance. About the same thing. Just now what I learned, next week if you ask me, did we learn that? Vedanta class is okay because basically the same thing is said every class. Different words are used. But Sanskrit class, if you come, I think we learnt this last week, but you forget so easily. So one moment knowledge, next moment ignorance. Then again that ignorance is removed by gaining knowledge. So you have to keep repeating the process. Then you have to give test also so that everybody studies. So jnana and ajnana. knowledge, ignorance, we keep going through these different states. And sometimes knowledge gives us joy, sometimes knowledge gives us sorrow. That's why we say ignorance is bliss. I am blissfully ignorant. Please don't tell me. I don't want to know. And sometimes that ignorance gives us sorrow. Sometimes when we don't know, then it's very difficult. And the fundamental thing is everyone has this abhimana, everyone has this identification, this ego basically. That aham, I am this. This is who I am. This is the jiva. So jiva and Ishvara are poles apart. Ishvara doesn't have aham abhimana, he doesn't have this identification. Ishvara doesn't have knowledge and ignorance in the same way that we have. He is of the nature of knowledge. Ishvara doesn't have joy and sorrow. So basically, how can you get confused? Don't think that Rama is a jiva like you and I. Rama Brahma Vyapaka Jagajana. Everybody knows. Rama is that Vyapaka Brahma, that truth which pervades all. He is that Purana, that ancient being. So Shivaji, describing Lord Rama itself, he bows down. And then he says, but listen, I know why you made this mistake. And this is the mistake that we make. This is the mistake that we are constantly making. But the difficult thing is, it's not necessarily something that we are aware of. And that's why we make mistakes, right? Because we don't know. If we knew, nobody would ever make mistakes. But there is one fundamental error that each of us are committing. And that is why we are in the state that we are in. And this, what is now coming, is all Upanishadic Vedantic teaching. Okay, what he so now after 116. The first thing is Nija Brahma Nahi Samujhahi Agyani. Who is an ignorant person? Somebody who doesn't know that they are ignorant. That is an ignorant person. That person who doesn't know that I don't know. Because if we know that we don't know, then we're no longer ignorant, right? Then at least we're aware of our lack of knowledge. And hopefully, what that should lead to is becoming a seeker. Some people are quite content with their ignorance. I know I don't know, but I'm quite happy, so please leave me alone. Stop telling me to come to class all the time. So that ajnana, if we don't see that it's causing problems, we will not feel that it should be removed. We'll say, let it be. What's the problem? Why do you have to do anything? It's not causing any harm. But if that person feels this is not okay, this is really making me suffer too much, then that person becomes a seeker. But who is the ignorant person who doesn't even know that I'm ignorant? It's such a sad thing that we don't even know forget about the rest of the world, because sometimes we tend to become very compassionate, we feel, look at these people, they don't know Vedanta, they're suffering so much. They don't know that they're ignorant. They don't know that there is something called Atma. First, please let us all look in the mirror before we start being too compassionate to everybody outside. It's good that we know that we don't know. But we cannot stop in this inquiry, in our sadhana, until truly that ajnanam has been removed. If we feel that just because I have studied a few shlokas of Gita and I have attended 1 or 2 classes, that is very good, okay? I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying it's very good. What I'm saying is, we should not become complacent. This is the only thing. Because complacency means stagnation. And what happens, when water stagnates? What happens to that water? Starts to smell. And what starts to form on the top? Some moss, something will come. It will become dirty. So we should notice. We should notice what suffering, that sorrow is bringing us. Because if we forget, we will let it be and it will keep causing that sorrow. And then when that sorrow becomes too great, suddenly we'll think, I really need to do something about it. And at that point, your mind will be in no state to even think of a solution. It will be suffering so much. So, we know we are not in this category. We can count ourselves lucky that we have been made aware that something needs to be done. But if we don't know what happens, Prabhu para moha dharahi jada prani. We superimpose our problems on either the Lord, you say, or we take them to be our real nature. So we say, sometimes how people say, we say that, okay, we are all individuals and the Lord is the total. And individuals mostly we have some joy, but we have a lot of sorrow also. So if Bhagwan is the total, then he must have mega sorrow. He must be really miserable. We are superimposing our problems on Bhagwan. Or we say, look at this world, Bhagwan is not doing anything. How cruel he is. Or how lazy he is that he's not doing anything despite seeing all the problems. Really, we're not concerned about anyone else's problems. We're concerned about our own. This question, why did God create the world, really is, why do I have sorrow in my life? We don't have a problem with the world. We don't have a problem with other people. We have a problem with our own suffering. And so we say, why has Bhagwan created this world in which I am living and experiencing sorrow? So our problems get superimposed on him. Differently, how you can understand this, that the self is free of all sorrow. That Atma has no problems. That Atma is infinite. It is of the nature of bliss. And that is me. And yet, what is our experience? I am finite. I am limited. I am sorrowful. So because of ignorance, this superimposition is taking place. And how does it happen? He says, Jatha gagana ghana patala nihari. Just as jahan pe ubhani kahahi kuvichari. When the sky is full of clouds, people will say, the sun is covered. This we have lots of experience. So we look and we say, sun is blocked, sun is covered, the sun is not there, there is no sun. Yeah, how can you see that there is no sun? Because the sun is there illuminating the clouds. And yet we say, can't see the sun. Only because the sun is there, we can see that which appears to be covering it. Or, he says, Chitava jo lochana anguli laye, pragata jugala sasi tehi ke bhaye. When you put your finger near your eye and you look at the moon, you will see how many moons? 2 moons. So it appears as something different. Really, how many are there? 1. So 1 is something that is just appearing, but 1 is a problem that we ourselves are causing. Last year I had gone to Kenya. I was in Nairobi and we were on the way to one talk. And where I was staying was a little bit outside of the city, so we were driving. And this portion of the road didn't have street lights. And dirt road because they were doing construction. So we were driving, and suddenly on the opposite side of the road we see what looks like a car reversing at great speed. On this side, so we're driving on left, same system there. And opposite side, another car coming really fast, faster than we were going. Looks like it's reversing. And we got closer and we realized that this person had switched out their headlights for red lights. So it looked like when he was driving properly, straight, it looked like he was reversing. What do you do in such a situation? You can't do anything. You can just admire the imagination of that person. Sometimes it appears as something and it's something else. So the point here, it's talking about Bhagwan, but the point is, Vedanta keeps telling us that you are this infinite self. You don't have any problems. Nothing exists apart from you. You are complete. You are blissful. And yet, what is our experience? I have sorrow. I am finite. I am bound. I am incontent, whatever it is. I'm unhappy. What is this? We are mistaking one for the other. Vedanta never, okay, you can do research and you can challenge me on this if you want. Vedanta never says you will find happiness with your mind. Vedanta never says you will be blissful as your mind. Vedanta never says you will be blissful holding on to your ego. Vedanta never says you are complete as your body. So we hear blissful, we hear content, we hear complete, And where do we look for it? In our body, in our mind, in our intellect. What does Vedanta say? You are blissful, complete, infinite as Atma, as consciousness. Nobody ever said you will get that result if you continue to think of yourself as a finite individual. And yet we want to hold on to that finitude and still claim that result. This is what he's saying, don't make that mistake. This is, as I said on that first day, the essence, what is spoken of in Vedanta, is that the fundamental problem is that we are mistaking one thing for another. Actually, I am that infinite self, and I'm mistaking myself to be finite, to be a body and a mind and an intellect. And because of this mistake, there is a whole parampara of problems that follow, one after another. So if we want to get to the root cause, we have to stop this mistake from taking place. Now, to be able to be at a stage where we can address that mistake, there is a lot that needs to be done beforehand. There is enough and more sadhana that we need to do to prepare ourselves to address this fundamental mistake. But we should not forget that this is where we need to get to. I want to say something, okay? The scriptures, the Shastra, are not there for us to use to validate our life choices. Sometimes what happens, we are only interested in studying scripture because we want some reassurance that what I'm doing is the right thing. And so sometimes what happens is we just pick up parts of what we have heard and we say, okay, scripture is saying it is okay, so I will continue doing what I'm doing. I may make some adjustments, but for the most part, I can continue as I am. This is not what it is for. The point of Shastra is to reveal to us the truth. And if we are not understanding that truth, if we are not following that path, they are not going to say, don't worry, it's okay, you keep doing what you're doing. Everything is fine. They are going to point out to us where we are going wrong, and they are going to point out to us how we can set ourselves right. So sometimes we feel that, what is this saying? It is tough love. This is what it is. Sometimes it sounds very tough, but it is love. Because they don't want us to suffer. They're not saying it to make you sad, to make you feel that, what is my life so far? What am I doing? They're saying it so that we can understand where our problems are, so that we can solve those problems. So that we can come out of whatever sorrow we are in. But if we are thinking in the wrong way, they're not going to say, continue as you are. They are going to say, no, this is wrong. And that is the compassion of the scriptures and of these teachers. If we have that, it's a question of maturity, right? If a child is doing something wrong but wants to do that thing and you stop that child, what will be the reaction? Tantrum. Crying, kicking, screaming, lying down on the floor and wailing, refusing to move. That will be the reaction. If somebody a little bit older is doing something wrong and you point it out to them, what will the reaction be? Thank you. I didn't realize that this is what I was doing. So it depends where we are. It depends, can we really say, thank you for pointing out to me where I am going wrong? And if we're not at that stage, that's fine. If we're not yet ready to see where we're going wrong, that's fine. We just have to know we have to get there. Shastra is not condemning anyone. Shastra is opening everyone. Our acharyas are opening their arms to us. And all they are expressing is love. Even when they say what you're doing is out of delusion, you are deluded, that is love. This is the mistake that is being made. So, don't mistake Ram to have any ignorance. This is what he says. Then, Vishaya Karana Sura Jiva Sameta Sakala Ekate Eka Sacheta. That, so many things are there. Objects, Vishaya. Then, what is used to perceive those objects? So we experience various things, right, in this world. Those are all the objects. What is used to experience them? Our instruments, so our eyes, ears, nose, etc. Then, Sura. Sura means the devatas that are presiding over those instruments. Or you say your mind, etc. And Jiva. Jiva means Jiva. Sakala ekate eka sacheta. All are enlivened. In other words, by themselves, those things are all part of the world. How do they get life? Because Sabakara Parama Prakasaka Joyi Rama Anadi Avadhapati Soyi. Rama is the one who is enlivening everything. In other words, Rama is that consciousness because of which expression is available in this world. That is that Ram. Jagata Prakasya Prakasaka Rama. Ramu. This entire world, the world is known as this, right? The world is known as an object of our knowledge. So how is it known? Because there is some illuminating principle that is Rama. Because consciousness is there to illumine everything, therefore everything is known. Otherwise, everything else by itself is just inert. This is what he's pointing out. Maya dhisa jnana guna dhamu. He is the Lord of Maya. And that Maya by itself is jada. Jasu satyata te jada maya bhasa satya iva moha sahaya. Sometimes, also what happens when we study Vedanta, we become scared of Maya. Maya has a really bad rep. Everything is Maya, Maya, Maya. Maya is very dangerous. Moha, the great delusion. But that Maya is the Shakti of the Lord. And It is only appearing as real because of this substratum, this truth that is allowing it to appear in that way. In other words, even when we say this whole world is false, yesterday we discussed, right? What is the definition of real and unreal? When we say the world is false, that same place where you are seeing that false thing, there you can understand that the truth is present. That Maya is dependent on the Lord. This is what is said in the Bhagavad Gita. Devi hyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. My Maya is very difficult to cross, but mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. If you want to cross Maya, then surrender to Bhagavan. Because all this Atma and Atma Viveka, etc. is very difficult. It's giving me a headache. So give me some good solution, please. Surrender to Bhagavan, everything will be okay. That's it. So this mistake is being made. But who is that Lord? Who is that? What is that truth? So it is said, this truth is that which supports this entire world. And even though that world is false, jadapi asatya deta dukha ahai. Tulsidas ji also knew what is our experience of life. Because we come into Vedanta, will tell you, world is false, world is not real. I know it's not real, but it's causing me pain. It's still very sorrowful. It's still very difficult. He says, I know, don't worry. But it's only appearing as real because of the presence of that Brahma. And the thing is, he gives an example. Jo sapane sira kaate koi. If in your dream, your head is cut off. Shocking example. Example only. Your head is cut, somebody else's head is cut off. Sometimes more painful because then you have to stay to see that person's head. If your head is cut off, then you that's the end. But it's a dream, so you can still see it. Somebody's head is cut off. Okay, what happens? Binu jage na duri dukha hoi. Without waking up, that sorrow will not end. As long as you're in that dream, that sorrow will continue. So the same way, as long as we are in this waking dream, these experiences will keep coming. Once we can wake up to ourselves, those experiences will be known as false. And jasu kripa asa brahmamiti jai girija soi kripala raghurai. By whose grace this entire delusion will come to an end. That is this Rama. Who is he? Adi. He is the beginning, Anta, or Adi Anta ko jasu na pava. Nobody can find his beginning and end. Binu pada chalai. Now all contradictory statements are there to describe the truth. He walks without feet. I also know people who do that. They use wheelchair. Binu pada chalai. He moves. Then Sunai binu kana. He hears without ears. Hearing aid. Doesn't need ears. Kara binu karama karai vidhinana. He does lots of work without any hands. I also know people like that. They don't do any work, they tell everybody else to do work. Work gets done. He doesn't need hands. And anana rahita sakala rasa bhogi. Without mouth, he eats everything. How? So how? Then one more he says, Binu bani bakata bada jogi. Without mouth, he speaks. He is very eloquent. Tana binu parasa. Without a body, he touches. Nayanu binu dekha. Without eyes, he sees. Grahi grhana binu basa asesha. Without nose, he smells everything. So nothing special is happening. Because of which we are able to do all of these things. Because of which the body walks. Because of which we see, we hear, we taste, we touch, we smell. Because of which everything is happening, that consciousness, which is enlivening the body and the instruments to perform their function, that is Rama. That is what is said. Asa sababhati alaukika karani. In this way, he does all alaukika, means very unusual things. That is Ram. Okay, Bhagwan, this is all very good, but please, I want something that actually I can do. Okay. All this mistake and superimposition you're talking about, and Atma and ego, and give me some simple solution. Bhagwan says, okay, Kasi marata jantu avaloki jasu nama bala karau bisoki. On the strength of whose name, when people die, here he says in Kashi, I see them, I make them free. This is a very common thing they say, that if you go to Kashi and you say Ram before you die, then Bhagwan Shiva will give you moksha. You haven't had this? Oh, you've had this, okay. This is what is said. In other words, that if we can't do anything, then we should at least be able to take the name of the Lord. Bibasahu jasu nama nara kahahi. Even if somebody says his name by mistake, Janma aneka rachita agadahahi. His sins of countless lives are burnt. And if somebody says with love, with devotion, sadara sumirana je nara karahi, bhava baridhi go pada iva tarahi. If a devotee takes the name of the Lord, this samsara becomes like the puddle that is created by the hoof print of a cow. That easily you can cross. In other words, no effort is required. If one can take the name of the Lord. This is why names also of children, why parents give names like Rama, Krishna, etc. So that they can also take Bhagwan's name, even if they're getting irritated at their children, haven't done something, then at least they're taking Bhagwan's name. And it's embedded in cultures that when something happens, you take the name of the Lord. When someone sneezes, Ram Ram. When you fall over, Ram Ram, Hare Ram. So even some bad news you hear, something shocking, Hare Rama. So it becomes automatic. So that even if we're not thinking about it, we can continue to say the name of the Lord. We know otherwise what comes out of our mouth when something happens. Where will that get you? Nowhere. Some people have this, some people, something happens, they say, sugar. You've had this? That's why so many Indian people are diabetic. That was a PJ. Guruji joke. We should learn to take the name of the Lord. This is what is said. when you're not doing anything, when you're doing something, when you're walking, when you're eating, when you're sleeping, when you're sleeping means before you sleep. All the time, this is what is going on. Whether it's Krishna, whether it's Rama, whether it's Shiva, the name of the Lord should be taken. So he says, that is Rama. Don't have any doubt. Because if you have doubt, we've already seen what's happened. Therefore, take the name of the Lord and be at peace. Now Parvati ji has heard. So what is the result of this knowledge? She says, your words are like the refreshing moonlight. And moonlight is very nice to stand in. You feel very nice when you see that full moon. Refreshing as moonbeams. Mita moha saradatapa bhari. And this heavy, strong delusion, which is like bright sun that is burning me, that is gone. How? Natha kripa abagayu visada. By your grace, by your compassion, my sorrow is gone. And sukhi bhayau prabhu charana prasada. And I have attained this bliss by the prasada of your feet. Both are important. Sorrow should go, but joy should be experienced. She says both have happened. Sorrow is gone, and sukhi bhayau. I am now blissful, and my moha is gone. This is the result of this knowledge. Then she says, I also asked you some other questions. Please answer those that we are not seeing. So what have we seen in this Shiva Gita? That to know the Lord is to be free of sorrow and to attain bliss. And in order for that to happen, what is required? Shraddha and Vishwas. And if we can, then this Viveka must be done. And even while we are doing it, when we are not doing it, then our solution, our strength in life is our devotion. Our devotion to God becomes that which will relieve us of this suffering that we are facing. And when we understand that this whole universe is nothing but Him, then we know that we are never away from Him. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to grieve over. Because the Lord alone is all. And that Lord is, as Parvati ji said, Vishwanatha Mamanatha. He is mine. Okay, so we seek Lord Shiva's blessings. Tomorrow especially is Mahashivratri. And Puja Gurudev's blessings, their grace should guide us in our journey and help us to attain that permanent bliss. Right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.